I stood outside the window of that upscale restaurant, watching my wife laugh with another man. In my hand, I held an envelope containing divorce papers. 6 months ago, I would have done anything to see her smile like that. But now, that smile was not meant for me. The wine glasses clinked between them, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. Before I walk you through what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe if you want to see how a man takes back his dignity when everything falls apart. Now let me take you back to where it all began. Diana and I had been married for 5 years. We met when we both worked at a marketing company in Denver. I was the creative director, and she was an account manager. Those early years felt perfect. We bought a small house in the suburbs, talked about having kids someday, and made it a tradition to travel somewhere new each year. Our Sunday mornings meant pancakes in the kitchen. Friday nights meant movie marathons on the couch, and we celebrated every single month of our marriage with dinner dates at different restaurants. I worked extra hours, saved every penny I could, all because I wanted to buy us a bigger house. Diana would rest her head on my shoulder and whisper, "We are building something beautiful together." I believed her completely. I felt safe, happy, and trusted her with everything I had. Then, 6 months before everything exploded, things started changing. Diana got promoted to senior account manager. She started working with a new client, a wealthy businessman named Preston. He owned a chain of boutique hotels, was 40 years old, divorced, and had that mature kind of handsome that turned heads. Diana began coming home later, and later, always with the same excuse. Preston needs this presentation perfect. She would tell me, exhaustion heavy in her voice. But it was not just the late nights. I started noticing small changes that made my stomach twist. Diana began caring more about her appearance. New clothes appeared in her closet, expensive pieces I had never seen before. She changed her hairstyle, started wearing heavier makeup, and bought perfume that smelled nothing like what she used to wear. She carried her phone everywhere, even into the bathroom. When I tried to be close to her, she would push me away, claiming she was too tired. Our Friday movie nights disappeared. She had to work, she said. When I asked if everything was okay, she would snap at me. "Why do you not trust me?" Her anger felt like a wall between us. I wanted to believe her. I told myself she was just stressed about the promotion, about proving herself in the new role. But deep down, something felt wrong. One evening, I decided to surprise her. It was our monthly anniversary, so I cooked her favorite meal, set candles on the table, and waited. She came home 3 hours late. The food had gone cold. The candles had burned down to nothing. She apologized quickly, barely looking at me, and said Preston needed to meet urgently about a client emergency. But when she kissed my cheek, I smelled expensive wine on her breath. Not the kind we kept at home. Not the kind we could afford. I said nothing, but that night, I could not sleep. The second month got worse. Diana went on 3 business trips with Preston: Chicago, New York, Los Angeles. Each time she returned, she felt more distant, like she was physically present, but emotionally gone. One afternoon, I found a receipt in her jacket pocket. Dinner at a Michelin star restaurant. I knew that place. It was romantic, intimate, not somewhere you took clients for business meetings. When I asked her about it, she had an answer ready. Client dinner, the company pays for it. But the receipt showed only 2 entrees, 2 glasses of wine, 2 desserts. Then came my birthday. It was in the 3rd month of all this madness. Diana forgot. She did not call, did not text. I sat alone in our living room with a birthday cake I had bought for myself waiting. She stumbled through the door at 2 in the morning, mascara-smudged dress, wrinkled, smelling like alcohol. I asked where she had been. She looked at me with glassy eyes and said Preston threw a party for his investors, and she could not leave early. But there was no guilt in her face, no real apology, just empty words. That night, something inside me broke. By the fourth month, I could not live with the uncertainty anymore. The not knowing was eating me alive. I decided I needed the truth, whatever it was. One night after Diana fell asleep, I reached for her phone on the nightstand. My hands shook. We used to know each other's passwords. We had nothing to hide. But when I tried her old code, it did not work. She had changed it. I sat there in the dark, heart pounding, and thought about what password she might use. Then I remembered something. A few weeks ago, Diana had mentioned Preston's birthday in passing during a phone call. I tried that date. The phone unlocked. My world stopped. There were hundreds of messages between them. None of them were about work. I miss your touch. Last night was amazing. I cannot wait to see you again. Pictures of Diana in hotel rooms wearing lingerie I had never seen. Preston responding, "You are the best thing that ever happened to me." And Diana writing back, "I wish I met you before I got married." Each message felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. But it was the most recent conversation that made my decision for me. 2 days ago, Preston had written, "Let's go to our favorite place Saturday night. 8 in the evening." Diana responded, "I will tell him I have a work thing. Cannot wait." Saturday was 2 days away. I sat in the darkness of our bedroom, listening to Diana breathe peacefully beside me, and felt my entire life collapse. I wanted to wake her up, scream at her, demand answers. But something stopped me. Anger, yes, but also clarity. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I would not confront her in our home. I would not give her the chance to lie to my face again. I would let her go to that dinner. And I would be there waiting. The next morning, Thursday, I called in sick to work. I had not slept at all. I drove to a law office downtown and met with a divorce attorney named Gary Feldman. He was in his 50s, sharp-eyed with gray hair, and a reputation for handling infidelity cases. I told him everything. The messages, the trips, the lies. Gary listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. "Colorado is a no-fault divorce state," he said when I finished. "But evidence of infidelity helps significantly with asset division. I can have divorce papers ready by tomorrow afternoon. Make sure you document everything." I nodded. I wanted this done fast. I wanted to be free. Friday afternoon, Gary called. The papers were ready. I picked them up, thick documents in a manila envelope, and drove home. Diana was not there yet. I sat at my laptop and searched through our shared Google account. Diana never logged out of the family computer. I found her location history. Their favorite place was a restaurant called Riviera. Italian food, lakeside view, dim lighting, expensive. The kind of place you take someone you want to impress. I called the restaurant and made a reservation under my name. "I need a table in the corner," I told the host. "Somewhere quiet, but with a good view of the main dining area." The host asked if it was a special occasion. I almost laughed. "You could say that. My marriage is ending tonight." Saturday morning arrived. Diana was in an unusually good mood. She made breakfast, something she had not done in months. Scrambled eggs, toast, coffee. She hummed while she cooked. I sat at the table watching her performance, feeling sick. She kissed the top of my head and said she had a team-building event that night. Might be home late. I looked up at her and forced a smile. "Have fun, honey." She could not meet my eyes when she left the kitchen. I spent the day preparing. I showered, shaved, put on a black suit, white shirt, and black tie. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red from lack of sleep, but my jaw was set. I picked up the envelope from the table and walked to my car. "This ends tonight," I whispered to myself. I arrived at Riviera 15 minutes early. The restaurant was beautiful. Warm yellow lights, soft piano music, couples scattered at tables throughout the space. A host in a crisp uniform led me to my reserved corner table. It was perfect. Shadowed enough that I would not be noticed immediately, but positioned where I could see everything. I sat down, placed the envelope on the table in front of me, and waited. My hands would not stop shaking. At 8:10, Diana walked through the door. She wore a red dress that hugged every curve of her body. I had never seen it before. She must have bought it just for him. Her hair was curled, her makeup dramatic, and she wore so much perfume, I could almost smell it from across the room. Behind her walked Preston. Tall silver hair, perfectly styled gray suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary, and a Rolex that caught the light every time he moved. I watched Preston place his hand on the small of Diana's back and guide her to a window table. The best seat in the house, overlooking the lake. They sat down, and I watched my wife smile at him, the way she used to smile at me 5 years ago. Preston reached across the table and took her hand. He stroked her fingers gently, intimately. They ordered wine, expensive bottles I recognized from the receipt I had found weeks ago. They clinked glasses. They laughed. Every detail burned itself into my memory. The way Preston touched her face. The way Diana leaned into him like she belonged there. The way they looked at each other with a familiarity that comes from months of intimacy. A waiter brought their appetizers. They fed each other bites of food. I felt bile rise in my throat. I stood up. The envelope felt heavy in my hand. I walked slowly across the restaurant floor, weaving between tables. Diana was laughing at something Preston said, her head thrown back, her hand on his arm. I stopped beside their table. For a moment, neither of them noticed me. Then Diana looked up. Her face drained of all color. Her mouth fell open. Her eyes went wide with horror. "Alonzo, what are you doing here?" Her voice cracked. Preston frowned, confused, not yet understanding what was happening. I did not say anything at first. I simply placed the envelope on the table between their wine glasses and appetizer plates. Then I spoke, my voice colder than I had ever heard it. "I thought I would save you the trouble of lying tomorrow." Diana's hands trembled as she reached for the envelope. She pulled out the papers, and I watched her eyes scan the first page. Petition for dissolution of marriage. The paper slipped from her fingers and fluttered onto her plate. "No, no, Alonzo, please." Her voice was desperate now. "This is not what it looks like." I laughed, and it sounded bitter, even to my own ears. "Really? So you are not having an affair?" For the past 4 months. Preston cleared his throat and finally spoke. "Look, man, I did not know she was married when this started." I turned to him slowly. "You knew exactly 3 months ago. I checked the receipts." Preston said nothing. He looked down at his plate, unable to meet my eyes. Coward. Diana grabbed my hand, her fingers ice cold. "Please, we can talk about this." I made a mistake. Tears started streaming down her face, cutting through her heavy makeup. I pulled my hand away like she had burned me. "The only mistake was me trusting you." She stood up, knocking over her wine glass. Red liquid spread across the white tablecloth. "I love you. I will end things with him. Please do not do this." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt absolutely nothing. "You should have thought about that before you chose him over our 5th anniversary dinner last month." Her face crumpled. She had forgotten that too. The entire restaurant had gone silent. Everyone was staring. Whispers started spreading from table to table. I turned my back on Diana and walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard her sob my name. "Alonzo, please." I did not turn around. I pushed through the doors and stepped into the cool night air. For the first time in 6 months, I could breathe. I woke up Sunday morning in a hotel room. I had moved half my belongings out of the house the day before, while Diana thought I was at work. My phone screen showed 47 missed calls from Diana and 23 text messages. I did not read a single one. I blocked her number and called Gary. Let's proceed with everything. Throughout that week, Diana tried desperately to reach me. She showed up at my office Tuesday afternoon. I had already informed Human Resources about the situation. Security escorted her out of the building while my coworkers watched. Wednesday, she sent a handwritten letter to my office. The envelope was thick, Probably pages of apologies and promises. I tore it in half without reading past the first line and threw it in the trash. Our mutual friends started calling. Once they heard what happened, every single one of them sided with me. My best friend Marcus came over to the hotel Thursday night with pizza and beer. "Bro, you deserve so much better than her," he said. Some of our couple friends cut Diana out of their lives completely. She had betrayed not just me, but the trust of everyone who knew us. 2 weeks after that night at Riviera, Diana hired a lawyer and tried to fight for half of everything we owned. But Gary was ready. He presented her lawyer with everything: screenshots of hundreds of text messages, photos from a private investigator I had hired the week before the restaurant confrontation, pictures of Diana and Preston entering hotels together, kissing in parking lots, holding hands at coffee shops. Her lawyer took one look at the evidence and advised her to accept our terms. The asset division was brutal for Diana. I had paid 80% of the down payment on our house with money I saved before we even got married. The house stayed mine. She received only 30% of our shared assets, instead of the 50% she would have gotten otherwise. There was no alimony, because we had both been working, and the marriage was relatively short. She had 10 days to move out. But losing money was nothing compared to what else happened to Diana. Her CEO found out about the affair through the scandal. Preston was a major client, but the CEO could not overlook Diana's complete lack of professionalism. She was fired within a week for conduct unbecoming and conflict of interest. Without a reference from her most recent job, she could not find work in the industry. Her entire career collapsed. And Preston. He disappeared the moment things got messy. I heard through Marcus that Preston blocked Diana's number 2 days after the restaurant incident. Apparently, he was terrified the scandal would hurt his business reputation. 3 weeks later, I saw on social media that Preston had a new girlfriend. He had moved on, like Diana never existed. She gave up everything for a man who never really wanted her. Diana's own family turned against her. Her parents had always loved me. I spent every Thanksgiving and Christmas with them. Her mother called me a week after the divorce papers were served. "I am so sorry for what my daughter did to you. You were always the good one." Even Diana's younger sister Stephanie stopped speaking to her. Stephanie told Marcus she had warned Diana months ago that she was making a terrible mistake, but Diana had not listened. Financially, Diana was drowning. She lost her high-paying job and could not find another one. She had to move into a tiny apartment in a bad part of town. She could not afford a good lawyer, so she got stuck with whatever her limited savings could cover. I heard she started selling her designer purses and jewelry online, the same items she had bought during her affair, trying to scrape together rent money. Her social circle vanished. People talked about her, whispered behind her back, excluded her from gatherings. She became isolated and alone. 1 month after that night at Riviera, we met at Gary's office to sign the final papers. Diana walked in looking like a ghost. Her hair was unwashed and pulled back in a messy ponytail. Her eyes were swollen and red. She had lost weight, and not in a healthy way. She looked hollow. When it was time to sign, her hand shook so badly she could barely hold the pen. After we finished, she turned to me. "Alonzo, please. I lost everything. My job, my friends, my family hates me." She grabbed my hand, her fingers bony and cold. "I know I do not deserve it, but can we try again? I will do anything." I looked at her and felt no anger, no hatred, just nothing. "You made your choice, Diana." I walked out of that office and never looked back. 3 months later, on a rainy evening, someone knocked on my door. I opened it and found Diana standing on my porch, soaked to the skin. She looked even worse than before. "I see you have moved on," she said quietly, looking past me into the house. "There is someone new living here with you." It was actually just my sister visiting for the weekend, but I did not bother correcting her. Diana started crying, tears mixing with rain on her face. I just wanted you to know I am sorry. I ruined the best thing I ever had." Her voice broke. "Preston used me. Everyone left me. You were right about everything." I felt a flicker of pity, but it died quickly. "I hope you find peace, Diana. But it won not be with me." I closed the door and walked back inside. I would be lying if I said I was fine immediately after the divorce. I was not. The first few months were hard. I felt like a failure. I had promised forever to someone, and it ended in betrayal, and lawyers, and signing papers in cold offices. Some nights I lay awake, wondering what I could have done differently, even though I knew logically that Diana's choices were not my fault. I started seeing a therapist. Her name was Dr. Helen Parker, and she specialized in helping people recover from infidelity. Our first session, I told her everything. She listened carefully, and then said something that stuck with me. Betrayal wounds deeply, but it does not define your worth. Over the following months, Dr. Parker taught me how to separate Diana's actions from my value as a person. Slowly, very slowly, I started believing her. I threw myself into work. It helped keep my mind busy. 2 months after the divorce, I was promoted to senior creative director. A campaign I had been developing for months, launched, and became the most successful project our company had ever done. Revenue increased by 40%. My boss pulled me aside and told me I was the reason the company was thriving. For the first time in a year, I felt proud of something. I also started taking care of my body. Every morning I went to the gym before work. I lifted weights, ran on the treadmill, pushed myself until my muscles burned, and my mind went quiet. The physical exhaustion helped. I joined a hiking club and met new people who knew nothing about my divorce, who saw me as just Alonzo, not the guy whose wife cheated. We hiked trails through the Colorado mountains every weekend. The fresh air and the view from the peaks made me feel alive again. 4 months post-divorce, I did something I had never done before. I took a solo road trip through Montana. Just me, my car, and the open road. No schedule, no destination, no one to answer to. I stayed in small motels, ate at local diners, and watched sunsets over fields that seemed to stretch forever. It was the first time in years I felt truly free. I was not running from anything. I was running toward myself. I reconnected with my family. My parents lived 2 hours away, and I had not visited them as often as I should have during my marriage. Diana always found excuses not to go. Now I drove to see them every other weekend. My mom cooked my favorite meals, and my dad and I fixed things around their house together. Simple things. Good things. They never once said I told you so, even though they had sensed something was wrong with Diana long before I did. I picked up hobbies I had abandoned. I started cooking, not just throwing together quick meals. I watched tutorial videos, experimented with recipes, and invited friends over for dinner parties. Marcus said my chicken parmesan was better than any restaurant he had been to. That compliment meant more to me than any praise Diana ever gave. 6 months after the divorce, I went to an animal shelter and adopted a dog. He was a 3-year-old golden retriever mix named Cooper. The shelter said his previous owners had surrendered him because they were moving and could not take him. When I walked past his kennel, he looked up at me with the saddest eyes I had ever seen. I knew that feeling. I took him home that day. Cooper became my best friend. He did not care about my past or my mistakes. He just loved me unconditionally. Every morning he greeted me like I was the best thing in the world. Every night he slept at the foot of my bed. Having him around made the house feel less empty. By month 9, something shifted. I realized I had not checked Diana's social media in weeks. I had not thought about her in days. When memories of our marriage came up, they did not hurt anymore. They were just memories, neither good nor bad, just things that happened to someone I used to be. I started sleeping through the night without nightmares. I laughed more easily. I made plans for the future that excited me. Now, almost a year later, I barely recognized the man I was when I stood outside that restaurant window. I renovated the house completely. New paint on every wall, new furniture, new everything. I erased every trace of Diana from my life. The house is mine now, truly mine, and it feels like home in a way it never did before. I wake up every morning and feel grateful. Not grateful for the pain, but grateful that I had the strength to walk away. Grateful that I chose myself. Looking back on everything I learned, lessons I could not have learned any other way. The first lesson was about betrayal itself. Betrayal says nothing about you and everything about the person who betrayed you. Diana did not cheat because I was not enough. She cheated because she chose to. There was nothing I could have done differently to prevent it. Some people, when faced with temptation and opportunity, make selfish choices. That is on them, not on their partners. I also learned about the power of taking action. When I walked into that restaurant and served Diana those papers in front of Preston, it was not about revenge. It was about reclaiming control of my life. I could have sat at home waiting for Diana to confess, or I could have confronted her privately and given her the chance to manipulate me with tears and promises. Instead, I chose to end things on my terms. I took the power back. That decision changed everything. Another lesson was about self-worth. After Diana started begging for another chance, part of me wondered if I should forgive her. We had history. We had built a life together. But I realized something important. Someone who truly loves you will not risk losing you. Real love does not gamble with betrayal. Diana made a conscious choice every single day for 4 months to lie to me, to sleep with another man, to prioritize her affair over our marriage. That was not love. And I deserved real love, not whatever broken version she was offering. I learned about forgiveness too, but not the kind people expect. I forgave Diana, but not because she deserved it. I forgave her because I deserved peace. Holding on to anger and hatred would have poisoned me from the inside out. Forgiveness did not mean I wanted her back, or that what she did was okay. It meant I released the bitterness so I could move forward. Forgiveness was a gift I gave myself, not her. Last night, I sat on my back porch with Cooper lying at my feet. The sky was clear, filled with more stars than I could count. The air smelled like pine and summer. I thought about where I was a year ago, standing outside Riviera with divorce papers in my hand, and where I am now. For the first time in a long time, maybe ever, I felt genuinely happy. Not the false happiness I had with Diana, built on lies and ignorance. Real happiness, the kind that comes from knowing yourself and knowing you are worth more than scraps of affection from someone who does not value you. That night at the restaurant was not the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of my freedom. Walking away from Diana was the hardest thing I ever did, but it was also the rightest thing. Sometimes the hardest choice and the right choice are exactly the same. And sometimes the strongest thing a man can do is walk away from someone who does not deserve him and build a life that does. So now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because staying would have destroyed you? How did you find the strength to choose yourself? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And please subscribe, because I will be sharing more stories about choosing dignity over desperation. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it reminds you that you are always worth fighting for. You deserve someone who chooses you every single day, not someone who makes you an option. Stay strong, stay true to yourself, and remember that sometimes the best thing you can do is let go.